So how it all actually started, all right, screw this. I'm building a protocol, like I can't handle this. I was driving with Kane and I just started trading. He was like, please, can you just start trading? You're gonna love it. And I'd made like $1 million in like 3 months. It was just stupid. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm the greatest man alive. Like I've made $1 million. Like, what are you, like, are you kidding me? I'm gonna start a trading company and I'm gonna start trading for other people. Kane was like, yeah, but dude, it's too late. Like my project is, worth billions of dollars. You're just never going to be able to catch me. And I was like, is that right? We'll see about that. I'm going to build a protocol and I'm going to make it bigger than yours.
What about closed metaverse? What about companies controlling the metaverse? Is that something you worry about?
A closed metaverse is not the metaverse. There is only a single metaverse. I don't care if Facebook changed their name to Meta or whatever. They're playing inside the metaverse. There is a single metaverse that everyone is building in. And the idea is that it's decentralized, it's permissionless. I'm very, very confident that you're going to see the top studios start building games inside blockchain. We want to show the mainstream people that, hey, this technology exists and now there are fun, engaging games that you can play utilizing this technology.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Kieran Warwick, the entrepreneur, gaming pioneer, and blockchain advocate. You are the co-founder of Illuvium, an open-world NFT collectible role-player game widely considered to be the first AAA blockchain-based video game built on Ethereum. You were first introduced to crypto during your time at the technology platform Blueshift, which was founded by your brother Kane, an early pioneer in decentralized finance. Here, you helped to successfully onboard Australian exchanges to the world's first over-the-counter crypto exchange. After this, you began developing Illuvium, which has experienced a rapid rise with the native ILV token price now over $600, giving you a market cap of over $400 million. You were named in Cointelegraph's top 100 influencers in crypto and blockchain, and your goal is to become the first protocol to truly onboard millions of people into cryptocurrency. Kieran, welcome to London Real.
Thanks so much for the introduction. That was awesome. Cheers.
Hey, it's great having you here. You know, Kieran, I think we'll just jump right into this because I think Illuvium is based on an experience you had a couple of years ago when you jumped on to Axie and started playing what ended up being, a real pioneer in the space of play to earn. And, I personally jumped on to Axie about 6 months ago. And look, I'm no spring chicken. I'm 50. I was gaming when I was a teenager. I used to play Atari, Nintendo. I used to play Castle Wolfenstein on my Apple II Plus, but I hadn't gamed in a long time. And I'm in this space talking to people like Yatsu of Animoca Brands, and I thought, you know what? I better get in there. So I went on Axie one Sunday afternoon. I bought my Axies with the Ethereum. They played, and I thought one of them died, and I lost $300. And I was like, okay, it was interesting, and I'm glad some people are making a living. But let's just be honest, I didn't play it again. And, a couple days ago, I was on the Sandbox on their alpha and I was playing around. We had Sebastian Bourget on. And again, it's incredible. It brings a lot to the table. But it's not exactly the game that's going to captivate my imagination like some games in the past did. And I'm wondering if that's a similar thought to why you created Illuvium or what your experiences was with like blockchain-based gaming and kind of what you want to do.
Yeah. So when I first started looking at the space, I wasn't necessarily looking to start a GameFi project. GameFi didn't even exist back then. It was something. I was looking to build a DeFi protocol, and I had pitched my brother a bunch of different ideas and said, "What do you think? What do you think?" And he was just like, go back to the drawing board. Back to the drawing board. He's pretty hard mentor to have. But then I found gaming in blockchain, and it was Axie Infinity that I started playing. Very similar experience to yourself. I went and bought 5 Axies and one land plot, and I jumped into the game, and I played it for I think an hour, and I was like, it's just not doing it for me. I love this whole concept, like the ability to own your own assets and have them verifiable on the blockchain was the aha moment for me. I didn't really care about the game. I knew if we could bring to blockchain what mainstream studios have are building right now, and the type of games that true esports players and mainstream players are going to play, plus we have this new technology and the ability for them to earn and have ownership of their assets and all of the benefits that come with NFTs. I thought this is like a no-brainer. And it was just from that moment onwards, it was like, we got to build a game.
And that was in 2020?
Yeah, that was 2020. It was, I think it was like June or July in 2020 that I found Axie, and I then went to Grant first, our art director, to get him on board. He's also my brother. And then we both went to Aaron to get him on board to do the game design. But from that day forward, it was like the next day I called them and I was like, we're doing this. Like, this is an opportunity that it never, ever, ever comes around. Like, we have to take this. They were both doing other jobs, right? And I'm like, quit your jobs, let's go all in on this.
Stay with me 1 second here. I think we have an alarm goes off whenever we have a really good guest here. So this is just happening 1 sec. It always happens when a point was really well made. But one thing I notice about you, Kieran, is almost the audacity of what you did. Because here we are, 20 months later, and you've now built something that is probably what you wanted, something better than what was existing. And yet so many people at the time would have thought, there's no way I could start from scratch. You know what? And build something that's going to be better than Axie, which was blowing up at the time. It continued to get even bigger. Does anyone ever ask you that question? Because it's kind of audacious. Now, in retrospect, you look like a genius. But at the time, you must have had to really have some belief in yourself to think that you guys could pull it off without the gaming experience, without all that. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, Kane was like, look, I don't really know. When I pitched him, he was like, okay, this is much, much better. But I don't know if gaming is going to catch on. Like, it just wasn't a thing back then. Like, Axie had been building for 3 years and they developed a very basic product. And so there weren't many people in DeFi. And you got to remember, these are crypto native people. They're gamers at heart, right? They've always been using the computer and the internet and stuff like that. And so no one really, I mean, obviously there were teams building and there were other people that realized this, of course. But I was being told I was crazy, insane, all sorts of stuff from even Aaron and Grant, my co-founders, because they were looking at it and they're like, it's just, that can't be, that game can't be that basic and have a market cap like it does. It's just they couldn't wrap their heads around it because it's so insane. But it's not the game, it's the technology that's the key here. And so once they and neither of them had any crypto experience whatsoever. And so once they dug in, they were like, he's right here. This actually could, we never expected it to be as big as it is, like definitely not. And I had some pretty grand ideas of what I wanted it to become. But yeah, now that it's real and we're playing the game, like that first moment that I saw it and I started playing, I was like, I almost can't even believe this is true now.
Yeah. And just to put some perspective, I mean, I had Yatsu of Animoca Brands, and he was talking about a seed investment he made into Axie in early 20. And he said, Brian, we scraped together that round. He's like, nobody wanted to know about blockchain gaming. And this is, early 20. This is 2 years ago. And he said, okay, then the DeFi summer came, and then, people started playing to earn on Axie. But he said, you don't understand that even early 2020, people didn't want to know. In the blockchain space, they didn't see that vision. Obviously, DeFi summer hadn't happened. And of course, the DeFi then empowered the GameFi. And then, meanwhile, you're building Illuvium at the same time. And Now, fast forward to today, you've got some visuals of what this beta launch is going to be like. And if it's okay with you, I want to play a few on the screen right now. We pulled a bit of video that's been on your YouTube channel, so we'll go ahead and play that on the screen. But if we can roll this, we're looking at now some of that single player stuff that's happening, or that arena with some of the games playing. What are we looking at that's going to come in the beta?
It's very likely right now we're in discussions about having an open beta for the survival mode, which we're looking to release a little bit faster than we initially thought. And that's because survival mode is pretty much done. The only thing we need to add to it is the player versus player component. And so we're very, very close to making a call on whether we go with that and then continue to polish the other game modes and then release them later. Because Grant and I are playing this survival mode and we're like, just get it into the hands of people. Like they need to play this. But at the same time, you only get really one chance at a real launch, right? And I think it's a little bit different to mainstream, given that there really isn't too many decent games that are out now because they take so long to build usually. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been pretty crazy, but yeah, we're like, 2-3 weeks away from getting this into the hands of people.
Wow.
It's super exciting.
That's exciting. And when I watch that video, it's fun. It looks pretty cool. It looks pretty exciting. And again, I'm paying massive homage to the Axie people and everything they've done, and they've got the assets and stuff. But again, your game looks like something that's going to be fun to play, and it's kind of exciting, and it's got that whole 3D aspect in there. And I guess that's what you always wanted, to have that. And again, right now, it takes so long to develop these. And so I was just on the sandbox, and obviously it's a very different proposal and a very different experience, and it has its utility. But again, if you want a game that people really enjoy playing, that really want to get in, and you want to turn people into gamers with your blockchain game, are you pretty happy with what you guys have produced and what you're about to drop?
Extremely. It's surpassed expectations. Like I like to hype things up. I like to market things. I'm a pretty bullish person and whatever. But when I first started playing this game, I was like, I actually can't believe this. Like, because I was like addicted to team fight tactics, which is half of the game that we've sort of modeled it off, at least the auto battler component. And I'm just like, I love that game. Like I love that game because it's very similar to chess. There's so much strategy that goes into it. And when I played just the survival mode, which isn't PvP right now, so I'm only playing against the computer, which is never going to be as enthralling or immersive as playing against another real player. And I was like, oh my God, you know, we need, like, just, there's nothing like had I come across this, I probably wouldn't have built a game, to be honest, because I would have said, okay, you know, it's not a super green area. There's big games that are coming out. I've never built a gaming studio before. That's probably a little bit insane. Let's go with something else. So yeah, I'm so proud of it. It's amazing what the team have done.
Well, congratulations on that. How do you think you were able to do it? I mean, again, like you said, you know, we've got massive companies around the world. I've been schooled on gaming, and people have said this business is bigger than Hollywood, music, and something else combined. It's like such a massive industry that people sleep on sometimes. How do you think you guys, you know, were able to develop something ahead of the big gaming companies, ahead of some of the blockchain protocols? How do you do that?
So we just went all in, and that's my mindset all the time. But we've got 200 people in our team, which is one of the largest blockchain teams in the world, right? Of any project. And we just said, you know, we've gone out and we've raised $50 million. We've said we're going to develop a AAA game. You can't develop a AAA game in the time frame that we set, which was absurd to say that, you know, in 12 months we're going to build a AAA game. But, you know, it's the team. Like, these 200 people are experts, and they're so incentivized to make this work because they all got tokens when they sign on, and, you know, they can really see the tangible benefit to that now. And we've done it in such a flat way where we try and get experts that don't need hand holding, just purely because we don't have the time. We don't have the time. We don't have the resources, and we're not in the same, like, every single person is remote, which is the other super crazy thing, right? Like, I've met 12 people on our team, like, actually. And so we've gone after, I would say it's our hiring ability, like, you know, going and getting people that just get it. They hit the ground running. They think, wow, this is so exciting. They understand NFTs, you know, the next thing that gaming is going to move into. And so they just work ridiculously hard. Every single one of them is, you know, gunning for this delivery. And yeah, you know, I'm just the guy that put them into a room, you know, and they're all working amazingly well.
Yeah, that's a big accomplishment to get that many people focused on one thing going forward. If people are coming in now and they don't know much about Illuvium, how do you describe it to people? Do you call it play to earn, or is it a free to play? If someone's listening that maybe owns some crypto or doesn't even own any crypto and is kind of metaverse curious, what is the selling proposition for people when they come on here? Is it just fun to play, but also you can own your own assets, and then you can potentially own land? Or how do you actually describe it or even sell it to people?
So we're building our own universe of games, right? So we want to get to 1,000 people in the studio in the next couple of years. And with that, we want to build a product suite. So it's not just going to be Illuvium. There's going to be multiple other titles that we build over the next sort of 5 to 10 years. And the starting point for every single one of those games is not how much people are going to be earning. It's how much fun they're going to have, right? Because at the end of the day, we don't have the ability to give an unlimited amount of rewards for playing the game, right? At some point, you need to have people go, okay, I'm okay with playing this game and not necessarily making money. I might actually spend $5,000 on Illuvium, right? I buy some assets and I do some in-game stuff, and then I get a solid 2 years of enjoyment, like proper enjoyment, where I'm with my friends, I'm in tournaments, It's like immersive. It's World of Warcraft type stuff. You know, you get them in for, you know, that period, and if they're exiting from that, and let's say they only recover 3,500 of their 5,000, they're okay with that. They're thinking, wow, that's better than Fortnite, where I dropped 2,000 on skins, and then when I left, you know, they just sat there in that centralized entity. It's like, wow, I actually recovered some. Oh, and if you're lucky, in a good circumstance, you might come out with $10,000 when you sell all of your assets, and you've made double your money. But the key is that you get the choice as the gamer. Right. And that's what mainstream studios are not giving their customers right now. And that's the secret sauce here, is just giving the power back to the players. Because once they get it, they're not going to hand it back. I guarantee it.
Yeah, really well said there. And so you think the play to earn really exploded, obviously, in 20 and 21, but you think from a long-term perspective, that's not going to keep people coming to the game and staying to the game. That's only going to motivate maybe certain people in certain economic situations in certain periods of time. You're thinking for long run, this has to be something that's like old games were, just fun. You want to show up and do it, and yet you own all the assets, which is what the open metaverse is all about. And so you're very clear that's the direction you want to go to, as opposed to, say, mimic a play-to-earn model that, say, Axie has done.
No. Yeah.
And talk to me about owning these assets, because I know early on you bought some land in the Axie verse and saw how that as an asset, you know, appreciated over time as the game became more popular. I know you also have those type of, you know, land assets in Illuvium as well. Talk to me about the thought on that, and is this also potential some of the motivation of playing the game to own part of that game going forward?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's different to Illuvium. It's on mobile, and so you're right. I bought Axie's land very, very early on, and the thing that struck me odd, I only bought that due to the rarity of how many plots there were going to be versus how many players I thought there would be. But there was no utility, and so yeah, they were saying there's gonna be utility, but it was just, let's sell some land. So I was kind of a little bit skeptical of that. And then when I said to Aaron, hey, I want to do some land, like let's sell land, but we need to make it have some sort of utility. That's when, you know, he goes to work, and he's amazing at game design, and him and Johnny, our CTO, they basically built this mini game where you're utilizing your land and you're mining resources from that land, and then you're selling it back to users in the main game. And so it's a way for us to integrate the two. And as a landholder, you'll probably make about 5% of the revenues that of the in-game revenue in Illuvium.
And so one thing I see you introducing really on, and you can already see this on your YouTube channel as well, which I find fascinating, is that you're almost using the game as a way of introducing GameFi and DeFi to your gamers and maybe even to the world. And I know this is intentional. I got to put my hat off to you. I mean, we have our DeFi Academy here, and I'm trying to teach people this as well. But for you to do it with gamification and doing it on the YouTube channel, it's fascinating because you're literally showing people how they can stake, I think, their ILV and work with the land. Tell me about that. Was that always the intention from the beginning? And how can people, you know, use the GameFi aspects of Illuvium?
Yeah, I think introducing the different DeFi elements like governance, like staking, it makes it definitely was the plan from day one. If you remember early on, I wasn't looking to build a game protocol. You know, I was literally looking to build a DeFi protocol. And so for me, I was kind of more a fish out of water on the game side. And that's where Aaron came in and you know, he's amazing at that. But we kind of just worked together to integrate as many DeFi elements as possible. And so, yeah, we're the way that I see it is if we achieve our goal and we start onboarding tens of millions of players, they're going to be introduced, that the system introduces them to DeFi with revenue distributions. So we literally give back 100% of revenues back to the people that are staked in the protocol. And so there's absolutely no reason whatsoever that anyone holding ILV shouldn't be staked in the protocol. So if you think about that, 10 million people, now you don't need ILV to play the game. So perhaps it's not going to be 10 million people, but it's going to be a fair chunk that kind of go, wow, this game is amazing and I love it. I'm going to buy a piece of it so I can vote and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, with that, they're going to get all of these benefits, and it just makes it a more immersive experience for the user. And who knows, that might be the catalyst, and not just us. There's probably 5 or 10 other games that like AAAs that are building in stealth mode right now, and they're going to do the same thing. You know, they're going to bring in these users and they're going to introduce them to different DeFi elements, and that's when I think we're going to see true mainstream adoption of crypto, because you're talking, 3 billion gamers out there. It's not a small number.
Is that what it is? So everybody who plays a game on their mobile, on anything, it's like half the world, or
now it's loose, right? Like there's people who play like 10 hours a day, and then there's people who play, once a month or whatever, and it's Candy Crush on their phone. But it's a huge market, it's not. And the craziest part right now is, out of like the 300 or 400 million potential crypto native people, they're not necessarily gamers who are playing Axie right now and Pegasus and Fancy Birds. They're literally people who had like full-time jobs in third world countries. So we're technically not even taking from those 3 billion people. We're creating new gamers on top of that market. And I reckon in the next 4 or 5 years, this could be a 50 to 100 million person market, where you're talking 10, 15, 20 different games out there where people can actually earn a living off. It's insane. It's
going to literally change the fabric of the world, won't it? 100% passing revenues back to your token holders. I mean, that is something that, the CEOs of an old school gaming company, they would be falling off their chair in the conference room, right? They'd be like, there's no way we can do that. Even for Web 3.0, Kieran, that's an extreme. I mean, you're literally passing through those revenues right through. Was that a conscious decision because you said this is how we're going to maximize growth, and this is really what we should create in the ideal version? Because a lot of founders wouldn't even go to that extreme.
I mean, look, it's either going to be sitting in the vault, and the treasury has about 13% of the token holdings, and they're staked as well. So people always ask, but if you're giving all the revenue away, how do you pay staff and whatever? That 12% of in-game revenues is going to be paid out to the treasury as well. And that's how I get paid and core contributors get paid and whatever. And so, yeah, that was 100% the biggest sticking point, because it was like, are we seriously going to do this? Like, are we actually, we didn't know that we're going to have enough revenues and whatever, but the network effects of saying that we'll only take a small percentage are like 100, 500, 1,000 times. And so that's why you can't be short-sighted in crypto. You just can't. You have to. The people that think long-term are the ones that I follow and watch it really, really closely and try and learn from, because a flash in the pan in this space is just, it's never going to be anything, right? It'll go to zero and that's it. You need to build things with substance. And we just backed ourselves and said, you know what? If that 12% isn't that much revenue. We've already raised money, so we have this, 3, 4, 5 years of runway. So be it. And it did exactly what we thought. The network effects were just insane.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate form of backing yourself and actually showing the world that you're 100% on your vision. Is when you put together a monetary policy like that with your treasurer, you're saying, like, we're literally all in on this, enough to where we've got so much revenue and we're trusting this process so much. That says a lot. And it's the big vision. And it's one of the things. I had Stanley Kulichev in here. I know he's one of your investors. And I was talking to Stanley about what he did, with Aave, and how he said, Brian, like, my job is to come to work every day and make good code. And if the community uses it, we win. My job isn't to say we're going here, we're going there. And we talked about how VC is almost inherently Web 2.0. VC in itself, by the definition, is always thinking, how do we get our return? How do we get our equity back, our payback? And so I asked him, like, will VC ever be able to fully move into 3.0? And we had a little bit of a debate. I mean, we're coming from this capitalistic world, and you were involved in a lot of businesses and startups as an entrepreneur in the past. I mean, you have to really shift your entire mindset of something we've been taught, hundreds of years of capitalism, right? To go forward and just say, I'm going to trust this process and universe. I mean, is that what it's like?
Honestly, yes. Like you are literally taking a leap of faith. And, we were lucky. We raised our money DAO first. And so literally no agreements, no SAFs or anything like that. And so we're completely decentralized. Framework, our number one, our largest investor, they put in $1 million from an email, and that's so, like, do I feel for the VCs? Like, I obviously invest in a bunch of different projects as well, because it's a bit of a hobby of mine. But yeah, changing that for me, it was easy because of my, the project that Illuvium is, it's embedded in that. So for me, I'd already changed my mindset, but I know that initial, like, is this actually happening? Like, it 100%, like, it's weird. And it is something that, VCs are going to have to come to the party, because again, what we are doing with these products is we're giving the power back to the community. That's what Stanny would have been talking about. And that, we always make a joke that if the community decided, we have a elected council, if the community decided for us to go and scrap Illuvium for whatever reason and go and build a first-person shooter, we got to do it. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, because the council is trying to build the DAO up. But the scary thing is, it literally could happen.
And that's the flip side of that. It's like when you empower the community, then that's always an option, which I guess is the whole point of empowering them. You've even said, I'm not the CEO, and that the decisions are coming ultimately from that council elected, or part of the DAO, which is all in governance and the tokens, right?
Yeah, I'm a core contributor. Some people just need a title, and I'm like, if you have to, I guess you would say that I'm what would be called the CEO.
Right.
But I'm a core contributor like everyone else.
Man, it's a fascinating shift to watch how this space happens. And again, you can't argue with the traction, the value lock, the market caps to where this is now. But I think it's going to take a lot of human brains some time to morph. Although I was talking to Ronil Rumberg of Audius recently, and I said to him, when you pitched your model to the VCs, which is basically a similar model, right? We're just, empowering the artists and connecting peer to peer. And he said the VCs are good about getting an idea that they don't understand that could scale. So he did say, in defense to them, while they are used to getting their return on their capital, he said they do like crazy disruptive ideas like a Napster or like this. So he said, you'd be surprised how they could engage and go with it. So maybe this mindset will happen sooner than later as far as the shift.
Well, they only need to get 1 or 2 right. That's the other thing, like when we were raising our first phone call, on the call, they said, we want to take $1 million. And I was like, what is this? Like, what? and again, that's going back when GameFi didn't exist. It wasn't, that term had not even been coined yet. It was literally, Axie and their revenues weren't crazy. Their users weren't crazy yet, hadn't spiked. And they were just like, this guy's got a whole bunch of conviction. His brother's, in it with him, and his other brother has demonstrated that he's capable of building products. Let's do it. Let's just throw it in. And so we had no trouble raising capital at all.
And why was that? Is it because of your conviction, obviously, and you've got people around you that have had great track records and they're super smart. But again, back then, that still takes a lot of faith.
Yeah, and I mean, the crazy thing was that I needed them to trust that Aaron had the ability, because he hadn't, he designed multiple games before and he's coded multiple games before, but he'd never published anything. He'd never released anything and did it properly, and he was actually thinking about doing it in mainstream for the past couple of years prior to Illuvium. And so it was pretty insane what we were proposing, but I think people got the fact that, hey, if they actually could build a AAA game here, then it's going to go crazy. That concept, there was enough pieces there. You might not have seen it if one day you see an article about Axie or another game or whatever, and you're not really thinking about it. But when it's all put together, and we constructed a really good pitch deck, and I do have conviction because I believed it. I was literally like, just give us the money and you'll see what's happened. And obviously I had already bootstrapped it. I think I put in something like 400,000 myself. And so they saw, when you're going into these capital raises, the founders that talk to me, they're like, oh, if you just give me the money first and then we'll go and build it. It's kind of like we had already gone and built a whole bunch of stuff. We had 3D models of of 5 of our characters already. And so it was like, these guys are actually going to do it, and so, getting them across the line with Grant is going to make this the best graphics he possibly can, which is going to easily be up there with mainstream. That was he's had 20 years experience. That was tick, easy. But then they would say, what about Aaron? And I'm like, you just have to trust me. The guy is a freak. Beyond smart. It's insane. And I said, I've already had our game design doc vetted. It was 1,200 pages by this stage, just ludicrous. And we'd had it vetted by 3 or 4 game designers. Nate Wells, who is a game producer for BioShock and the art director for 1, 2, and 3, he read it and he was like, dude, who is this Aaron guy? And I'm like, it's my brother. And he's like, this is exceptional. And once I heard that, I was like, then it was game over for me. So then when I was selling Aaron, it was like, trust me, we've already got people that have verified this. It's going to happen. And they believed it. And, here we are, and 15 months later, and we literally have a game now. It's kind of crazy.
And let's jump into that. What is the game? If I'm jumping into Illuvium, what is the world like? What are my intentions? What are some of the experiences I'm going to have when I go in there?
Yeah, so there's 7 different areas for you to travel into. So you crash land on this alien planet. You have a drone that's with you. It's like your sidekick, and it's an open world. And so you walk around. You start off. It's free to play, so you don't need to invest anything to get in. And you can either go the free to play route, which still allows you to collect NFTs, they will have a value because you can level them up, and then there are going to be people who are like, I don't want to level up, so I'll just buy a higher level tier 0. And you go into the world, you start battling and capturing these alluvials. There's 150 unique ones to collect in all the different regions. And so that's the open world component. And then there's the battling component, which is like ranked mode, where that's where, you get down to the really super competitive stuff where it's an auto battle. And so all of the strategy is done before you actually start. Like once you press play, the outcome is the same. Right? It's not going to change. And so you have to make sure that it's literally like playing a game of chess. You can position, you can have all of a perfect board, but you can position a character one tile off, and it will go and start auto-selecting a character that's like a tank when you want to go and take out the OP damage, and you've lost. And you look at that and you're like, God damn it, I know I misclicked or whatever. And so the auto battler part, that's the part that I think is going to be super addictive. Like the replayability. I'm playing the survival mode now, and I've got a bit of a wager on with my brother at the moment. I stupidly bet him $1 million worth of ILV. And so we've just been going hard at it, but it's so addictive. Like it's just, yeah, it's so much fun.
So if you're actually playing it, this is a really good sign. and you eat, breathe, and drink this game as well, and you're still playing it with your brother.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't get as much time to play it as I want, and I'm really the type of person, like I couldn't play. I need an opponent, right? I have to have the competitive side of it. Otherwise, a game becomes boring for me. Even if it's amazing, within like 3 to 6 months, I have to have that interaction with other players and stuff like that.
Okay, and so that's all going to be a part of this going forward. Talk to me a little bit just about Metaverse. Maybe we'll just zoom out quick here. It's a word that's been talked about a lot. A lot of people don't know what it is. A lot of people are experiencing different versions of the Metaverse. When I have people like Yatsu on or Robbie on from Immutable X, they're all stressing how it's so important that we create the open Metaverse before someone else creates the closed Metaverse. Just want to get your thoughts on that. Do you find that you have to really explain to people what it is sometimes, or do most people kind of understand where we're going?
I think people are starting to understand it now. It's very much physical things being turned digital. Being immersed in a digital world where you can buy things like real estate, like you normally would in the real world, and things like art. We're digitizing art, and for the first time ever, digital art can be verified that it is the true one of one. And so gaming is another thing in the metaverse. There's things like Sandbox and Decentraland, where they're really, really promoting the whole experience of come in here and build your own world inside of our world. And so it's interesting. I think the one thing I'll say about the metaverse is that it's always sort of positioned as this utopian world where everyone's assets can come in and play and whatever. And that's not like that. Ready Player One vision is still very, very far away. Now, games like ours or ecosystems like ours, because we have the NFTs.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.